Welcome everybody to Blerdlines. This is your man Cam. With me, as always, is
the other Cam, aka Black Destro,
as well as
Destro, kind of black. No, he's Irish. Wow, no. Yeah. All right, yeah. This is Josh. Hi.
And as always,
it's the professor. You guys know me.
Destro just has a black man's voice.
True. And a face too, because it's like big lips and
he's got the lip. Yeah, so he could have just made him black. Why?
No, back then they didn't. You were trying to. You know what that was about.
Look, we can have a totally separate pod of characters that were black but weren't portrayed
really.
as black.
Exactly.
Panthro,
no, right?
Panthro was absolutely black.
Lex Luthor from the animated series.
True.
You know Clancy Brown, because Clancy Brown, if you just heard him talk,
true. He had the deep baritone voice.
Yeah.
I would believe that he was a black man.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Clancy Brown.
And the way they designed Luthor.
Yeah, I was going to say the character design of Luthor definitely lends itself to him being black.
Clancy can go either way though.
Yeah, that one can go either. Brown usually though, not so much.
Yeah, true. After all of that, we're back. We're talking Creature Commandos. It just wrapped on Max. James Gunn's entry into his new DC universe. Was it 6 episodes animated? One of the things that off the rip that was cool was James Gunn talked about this when he first started, where he was like, it's going to be all media. So there'll be movies, there'll be TV shows, there'll be animation. They'll all fit together or have some type of piece. And I think with Creature Commandos as one of his opening things, he kind of did a good job. Kind of just out the gate. Like, hey, these are these characters. Once again, he's really good at one line of dialogue to connect things without over punching faces. The standout scene in all 6 episodes was when Rick Flag Sr. and Fat Waller is hanging out, and basically they're just like, talked about Peacemaker, and Rick Flag had a moment where he paused, and Amanda Waller acknowledged that pause, because we all know from Suicide Squad that Rick Flag Jr. got killed by Peacemaker. And so by adding that one line of dialogue in Creature Commandos, they literally connected that whole movie and Peacemaker, the show, and then just kept it moving. They didn't even talk about it for the rest of the show. D'Angelo?
I was going to add to that exchange was the Suicide Squad, what happened with Rick Flag Jr., Peacemaker the first season, and what happened between Amanda Waller and her daughter. In fact, that was the whole thing. She talked to him about his son and what happened in his tragedy, and he threw at her like, "Oh, so you still running teams even after what happened with your daughter? Like your daughter outed you." So that's the way you can do a shared universe without having it be too much, because beyond that, there was no more. You didn't need to know anything else about the Suicide Squad or Peacemaker.
100%. And I made it, and allowed you just to be like, oh yeah, that's right, I did watch those things. All right, let's move it. Now let's find out about these new band of misfits that James Gunn is so fond of like throwing together. And from a artistic aspect of it, character design and animation done really well. Like out the gate, like DC animation, they always be doing their thing. I'm glad that they keep Phil Barossa, who did a lot of the character designs from Young Justice. He did some stuff for this as well. And so I like that DC animation just takes the animation serious and actually puts some work into it. They don't they have their kiddie stuff, but when they're actually doing some serious things, it actually looks well. And so like it looked good watching it. And that helped to allow the story to have no too many hiccups and stuff like that.
Yeah, and actually you can see the influences of Young Justice all over it. And it gave me a little bit of hope that maybe, we will get like a Young Justice movie trilogy, because that's a story that deserves finishing because of the way how well they did it. But Creature Commandos was extremely fun and just shows, I don't think he went that far too much with it. Remember, we had talked about this. What was the problem with Ayer's Suicide Squad? Because
we did not narrow it down to one thing.
In terms of the villain and the reason that they're there, they're facing off against a cosmic or whatever supernatural entity. When usually the Suicide Squad is like going after Joker or trying to diffuse, which that was like right there. So
exactly,
Commandos, where it's like you don't have to go too far to set things up. You have a nice eclectic group of characters. You use each episode to kind of flesh them out. And it becomes something that makes you want to continue to watch things in this sandbox. There was a lot of cameos, a lot of big names from DC popping up, and sometimes they just popped up for a frame and then they were gone.
Yeah, exactly. When they showed Dr. Phosphorus's origin, and he started to become a kingpin, and he started, getting more money, had his own crew, and literally all of it comes crashing down. In one scene, you just see the Bat's silhouette, and then next scene is him in jail.
Lights go out, thunder. He look up, thunder, the Bat silhouette, and next thing he in jail.
I mean, for me, it was first of all, it was great. It was good storytelling. My love affair with my long distance love affair with Indira Varma continues. That woman's voice could just, oh my God. Anyway, but yeah, the show itself was great. And like we said, just one line of dialogue just seems it all, just sews it all together. I thought it was thoughtfully done. It was done in the vein of literally everything else James Gunn has done. Like, you can kind of see his stamp on things if you've seen enough of his recent work. The flashbacks to tell the individual origin stories of each character work perfectly well. The Frankenstein monster, hats off to Jim Harbaugh, because wow, like I've seen a lot of Frankenstein interpretations, and this probably tops them all. He was just absolutely off his ass the entire time. Like, he really did a good job of selling that character for who he was. Just basically just a love-obsessed stalker over the course of centuries.
A sociopath too, with unlimited strength and seemingly immortal, which makes it even more crazy. Also, David Harbour, not Jim Harbaugh. I know
Jim Harbaugh.
I know that NFL playoffs going on right now.
Yeah. Totally. I totally have football on the brain. Yes, David Harbaugh. Sorry. But he was phenomenal. He was absolutely phenomenal as the Frankenstein monster. Indira Varma was just, I feel like there are a couple of potentially Emmy Award winning voiceover performances in this thing. I feel like
Sean Gunn as Z.I. Robot was just had me dying laughing. Everything he said, and especially when he was at that party and in the flashback, and he's like, are you Nazis? And all of the people, and they got quiet. And he was like, no, we're not Nazis. He's like, yes, but a Nazi would say that they weren't a
Nazi. Zoe Chow as Nina was just loved her character too. And that's the thing. I think the good performances they sort of endear you to the characters individually and then as a team. And I feel like they did a really good job of, hats off to whoever, I don't remember who wrote it. But hats off to the writers, man. They did a phenomenal job. James Gunn wrote it. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I was going to say James Gunn wrote most of those episodes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So yeah, hats off to him, man. He really pulled you. But I feel like even with that, like, he's written a lot of this. He's written most of his directorial work of late. I don't feel like I got pulled into characters more than I did with this show. I felt like, even with like the previous Suicide Squad or Guardians of the Galaxy, I don't feel like I got pulled into these characters the way that I got pulled into these characters. There's something about how he wrote this and how he characterized, and I guess maybe the performances as well, the combination of the two really sort of sank the viewer in and pulled them into these characters in a certain type of way that really worked.
And
Peacemaker, he is. And Peacemaker, I was going to say, to add to that, Peacemaker is another example. I think it just speaks to the fact that obviously TV is the writer's medium. It's more for, than a 2-hour film. It's more preferable to have 6 hours of television to tell a story than 120 minutes. You can just do more and you can flesh out things more than you can in that 2 hour, 3 acts of, the expectation is somehow you got to wrap it back to a happy ending or something like that. And Peacemaker was that too, just like this, where you get sucked into the characters, but after initially being repulsed by them a bit. And I think that's what makes why he's good at this particular type of taking these kind of misfit motley crew, because with the exception of Nina, all the other ones were monsters when you first meet them. They've murdered, they've butchered people and all kinds of things. But as you go through the story, you become more endearing to them because you see that they were monsters who were created by society.
I would also add maybe Weasel too, because he had a backstory that was kind of compelling. I don't think he was a true villain; he was just misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing about Gunn. This is what Gunn does. If it was anybody but Gunn, I probably would have never watched this. But because it's Gunn, and he's had success with Guardians of the Galaxy. He knows how to do, like, again, these motley crew characters that really no one really cares about unless you're like hardcore to care about them. The cool thing about this, which stood out for me, and y'all can hear my daughter in the back, is that the way they introduce character is on par with Earth Mightiest Heroes and how they introduce characters. I thought that was really well made, in my opinion. Earth Mightiest Heroes is still the first 2 seasons, and Young Justice, but Earth Mightiest Heroes is how they introduce all those ensemble characters, not all in like the first 5 episodes, but it was like 10 episodes later. Then you found out about Wolverine, and then you found out about Black Panther. And like, they didn't really push the intro on you. Whereas like on this one, it's 6 episodes, but we didn't get like, here's everybody intro in the first episode. It was like, oh, we learned about the bride. Why is Frankenstein chasing her? We learned a little bit about Weasel, and his backstory and why he doesn't talk. He's probably traumatized. He's probably shocked into never saying anything if he could talk before, It's a tragic story for each character. And Gunn knows how to encapsulate all these little nuanced storylines and make you care for villains or make you care for the misunderstood, which he has a knack for. And I guess, the lack of a better term, to care about the little guy, even though these are not little guys.
They're like the anti-hero.
I think, the anti-villain, anti-hero type of figure. I think all of these characters kind of fit into that anti-villain sort of, whereas they are villains, but they're villains because they were pushed to that or they were victims of other villainy. Right.
So the world around them sort of made them who they are.
Exactly. That's what happened with Phosphorus. Phosphorus he was far from it, a scientist, a family man and all. And then Rupert Thorne goes Dr. Manhattan on them, tries to turn him into Dr. Manhattan, literally with the particle. Like, it was just the cruelest thing you could do to somebody. And same with, the bride is a revenant just put together and jolted into consciousness at the whim of a scientist for his creature that he doesn't want anymore. And so all of these things, you're right, he has a knack for it. Because I keep bringing up Peacemaker, but it's the same thing I felt watching Peacemaker. Initially, I was like, I don't want to see this. This is some glorification of white douchebaggery of its highest form. In addition to him being red, white, and blue, wanting to shoot and kill, acknowledging that he goes out and kill more black people than not. But
that's what made me not watch it. That's what made me not fit.
But exactly. So I did that the first, but then when I came back to it, I was like, okay, he's telling us that this dude is a piece of shit, but then here is why he's a piece of shit. And it can't be trivialized because, again, he is the victim of a true villain, right? He is the victim of a real villain who, in a way, hides behind that in order to protect himself. And so he's great with characters. I just circle it back to what we were saying about Creature Commandos. He pulls you in to these otherwise undesirable individuals who we probably wouldn't want anything to do with if we knew them in real life.
Yeah. And I think that's like, again, that's his kind of his strength that made people care about Guardians of the Galaxy when no one knew what the hell they were. Like, when I heard, I've actually followed Guardians of the Galaxy since the late 80s up until now, even the version before. So when I had heard that they were going to make a movie out of it, I was like, this is weird. Why would you pick any of these characters? And I was like, if they can make this work, they can make anything work. And that's something that, to his credit, he totally made it work. Suicide Squad.
I remember you and I having that discussion when the character list was announced. And I was like, I have no idea. Like, I've been reading comics longer than anybody here. And I was like, I have no idea who any of these, like, I know Drax. And I only know Drax because of Thanos, because he was supposed to be the Thanos killer. That was his whole thing. So I was like, all right, if they go with that, that could be interesting. The other characters, I know Gamora from Infinity Gauntlet, from the Infinity Gauntlet books.
I was gonna say that's how I knew Gamora and Nebula.
Yeah, I was like,
from the Infinity Gauntlet. Yeah.
I don't know what animation had it, but they had a brief cameo in one of those cartoons, and I was like, "Who the hell?"
Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah, they appeared randomly, but they didn't really. They had the helmets on, so you didn't know who was who. So
yeah, but I think that's the thing. Like, being able to take characters that no one really knows about or cares about and doing something with them is Gunn's kind of like secret power. And so I think he did a great job with Creature Commandos, which even when this got announced, I was like, why would you do this? But then again, it makes perfect sense. Because again, you can show a different, you can show a different part of the DC area, and one that not for nothing that Marvel hasn't done really great with of their creatures and the Werewolf by Night, Moon Knight-ish type of thing. That whole realm. Yeah, they just haven't done anything with that section of Marvel, which Marvel has an interesting creature set, but they haven't done anything on live stream with.
I mean, sorry,
real quick. And D'Angelo and I had the same conversation about Peacemaker offline. And he pointed out, he was like, yeah, James Gunn kind of, like he was saying, James Gunn kind of does the same thing that he does with all the other things that he's done. It's a misfit bunch of people who come together to do a thing, and, they have a mission, but in the midst of that mission, all their interactions sort of do the James Gunn things that James Gunn does. And initially when I saw Peacemaker, I was like, this is pure nonsense. Like, I'm surprised that James Gunn wrote this and blah, 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 blah. And so, to be fair, credit where credit is due. D'Angelo and I had a recent conversation about it. Friend of the pod, Eric, also has been after me to watch it. He was like, you have to watch it. But he didn't go into he's not D'Angelo, so he didn't go into the detail that D'Angelo went into in terms of describing why I should watch it. He just said it was good, which is, for him, that's good enough for me. It's just something about that first couple of episodes really left a weird taste in my mouth, but also it's James Gunn. So I'll go back and watch it. I'll probably watch it this week and get back to y'all. But yeah, it's like James Gunn is an auteur. He's not the standard high-minded, high concept filmmaker that you attach to being an auteur, but he's got a style, and his style follows through every single thing that he does. And he's
like, he reminds me of Spielberg a lot in that Spielberg had his idiosyncratic style, but he also knew how to make money. He also knew how to make stories that connected to the vast majority of the audience, specifically American. His style was Americanism stuff, but James Gunn is a little bit more nuanced than that. But, again, all of it has been there since Guardians of the Galaxy. As I said, when I rewatched Guardians of the Galaxy 3, all three of them as a whole trilogy, I was like, there's no other trilogy in the MCU that is better than this. There's none. There is no 3-unit film that came out of any of those films that is better than this 3-movie arc of a story. Where
Ant-Man movies? Come on.
Well, they come to a close 10th, but
close 10th.
But here in this case, Volume 3, because I was looking at all three of them and I said, he takes these characters that again are either obscure, unimportant, and along the way gives them a journey that you not only care about, but along the way they become a familiar unit, and you care about what happens to them, and that translated even in the other films. But I was just thinking about the softball of Peter Quill preparing him for Peacemaker. So because by the time he got to Peacemaker, he had already dealt with the man-child that didn't. But I brought that up because by the third film, everything that Quill was doing in that film was about him growing up and him finally understanding that the reason he lost so many people is because he routinely failed to appreciate them, or he ran away from them, or he trivialized the relationship in general. He was very playful and flirting with Gamora like he's some high school idiot, instead of just telling her how he felt, and she dies. It's the same thing. And so when it happens to Rocket in the third one, he's like, I'm done losing people because of my stupid shit.
Right.
And that's growth.
The recurring theme of, running away from it when things get real and things get, he ran away from his mother when she was dying. He wouldn't embrace what was happening in his mother. He didn't embrace what happened to Gamora post having had it happen and having a vastly different Gamora come back. Like, if that ain't a slap in the face to say, yo, she's gone, dude. Like, but that's the beauty of it. It's not as simple for him it's not simple for anybody to let go of someone they loved, especially, if it's a male-female relationship, whether it's mother-son, whether it's, boyfriend, girlfriend, in the case of Gamora and Quill. It's not simple to say goodbye. It's not as simple as, oh, she's gone, I'm going to move on. Like, he really has serious attachment issues that he never resolved until the third film. And technically he didn't resolve them so much as he avoided having to deal with it again. Just, he kept someone alive this time.
Yeah. Well, I think by the end, he became less of a child because he turned on to his grandfather.
That's what I was going to say. I think, and you're right. I think by the third one, you see now the maturation of that character, right? Man-child to finally being more of a man. Man, not so much man-childish, but not full of man, but he's there. And also, too, each one of those characters are drastically different from when you first meet them, which is dope. And I think that was something that's cool that you don't really get to see a lot in MCU. There's only a few others that we can point to, not many. But I think same with Creature Commandos, where from the first episode to the last, you're like invested when, things happen to the characters and Rick Flag gets his ass whooped by freaking Clayface, which makes sense because it's Clayface. And then, but also Rick Flag and Frankenstein's like somewhat of a bromance, but not really.
That is the most hilarious thing. I mean, just the way that he talks about it and how he describes Rick Flag as his best friend, even though he literally almost killed that dude.
Yeah. My best friend Rick Flag, who I almost killed.
Scene stiller. Every time he shows up, just the best. 100%. It's just so good. But yeah, in general, I think Creature Commandos did a really good job of just cementing that DC looks like they're gonna be okay. And I think this was a good silo just to let everyone know, like, hey, I got this. We good. They dropped the Superman trailer in between it too, just to let everybody else know, like, haha. So I think Gunn right now is now showing it for like from everything he's putting out, everything he's putting forward. And also one of the good things too is Gunn is really good, like Straczynski, and there's a couple other McQuarrie is really good about this, but they're good on social. And the reason why they're good on social is because they're very truthful. So when there's like a rumor or dumb shit, they'll be like, no, that's not real. Or they'll be like, oh yeah, that's totally right. And I like that he embraces all that it is to being in this madness called the freaking comic book fandom, but also regulates it. So it's like, yo, this is what I'm doing. And if something's like, if something's blatantly wrong, he'll literally be like, nah, that ain't it. And people are like, well, I heard. Oh yeah.
The example of the studio where people were like, oh, they said the studio saw it or read the script or whatever it was and said it together and sent it back. And James Gunn is like, yeah, because I'm the head of the studio and I saw it and I had notes and I sent it. I told him that. Yeah, that's how this works. It doesn't mean that it's going to be bad, or I think people are so conditioned to thinking that, when you do reshoots or when you do things, or if the studio is dissatisfied with something and it somehow become public knowledge that we're going to get a Batman versus Superman or a Suicide, because that was the rumor coming out of all of those, that they all had to go back and reshoots and things like that.
That is true about the first Suicide Squad movie, according to David Ayer, David S. Goyer. And he's lobbying to get a director's cut of, because apparently they shot it all. I did not know this. Apparently they shot it all. The trailer dropped, and then they reshot like 3/4 of the movie based on the reaction of the trailer, because the trailer sort of angled your perception and perspective of the film one way that was different from what the movie was actually going to be. And they were like, well, we should just make that movie. And so David Goyer has been lobbying heavily. He's like, it's all there. It's all been shot. It's all been edited already. Supposedly,
let it go, brother. Let it go.
On record. Supposedly, James Gunn is on record saying he is not opposed to the idea, if for nothing else than vindication.
What did I say? James Gunn want everybody to like him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a whole other story. I mean, and you and I discussed this at length offline, D'Angelo. Goyer's serviceable to good. It's just he's got equal number of like spazzed out films,
man,
as he does good. No. To be 100% fair,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Equal number of misses as he does hits.
Yeah,
I think he got more misses though, because I'm trying to think of like his first hit was Blade, right? Was the first.
As long as he doesn't direct, he should be okay.
Yes, if he's writing, good money.
I agree. I agree with that. But I think that's the thing. You're right, though. I think those are those types of things where, bringing it back to Creature Commandos, where it's like when you get to be able to play in the sandbox and pick random characters to do something with them, and you actually hit it out the park, it's actually a pretty good thing. Because now he has a little bit more of more capital going forward for, if there's any missteps or anything like that. And I think is a Creature Commandos one of those like must-sees? Nah. But if you watch it, you'll be thoroughly enjoyed. It's entertaining, but I'm not going to tell you to push another show out the way to watch this. Like I think it's a good thing to watch on your own time, but I don't think it's one of those things where you need to make sure that, I have to watch this because this is, like, as Josh said, you need this in your life. Like, nah, I don't think
if you enjoyed James Gunn's work previous to this, then yes, it's a must watch. But if it's just, another thing, if his work is just like another thing that you get to at some point, you can get to it. Yeah. But if you're a James Gunn fan, this is right up there with all the other stuff that you enjoy of his work, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good way to leave it. I think that's exactly what I would probably say about that. All right, everybody, thank you for listening to us on some Creature Commandos-ish. And James Gunn, once again, Superman comes out, springtime? Is that what it is?
Somewhere there,
like
yeah. They're fast tracking it. I think it's later this year. I think it's the top of the summer blockbuster season.
Yeah,
so probably late spring.
It's July. It's around 4th of July. It's around the 4th of July holiday.
Oh, so it's the middle.
Can't wait to see the Motley Crue and Superman.
Right, exactly. See, like Superman and the Guardians.
Well, he's got a crew around him. Mr. Terrific's in it. Guy Gardner.
Hawk Girl.
Metamorpho. Hawk Girl. Like
Superman needs help, huh? All right.
No, I think he's saying that he always needs help. What do you mean? How else is that movie gonna sell box office? No, I'm just
you guys.
No. I was just gonna say really quick. I like it because it's kind of like what Matt Reeves did with the Batman, where he put all these characters in there and established that they exist, even if they don't have a huge role.
Like that. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, like you know that they're there.
Film. It's a Batman film set in the universe up.
Exactly.
Yep. Nah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Superman is going to do much the same thing. Yeah.
Yep. Superman's going to be out here just bench pressing airplanes.
Hey, yeah.
If we get Henry Cavill Zod, you heard it here first.
Listen,
I fully support that. I'm glad to put that in the air. I didn't think about it until you said it. So
I absolutely endorse that. I think we should bring. I think you know what? Cam has carte blanche to bring that up anytime he wants. That is arguably one of the best ideas I've ever heard.
Put it in the ether. Put it in the ether.
Gunn, I know you hear us. I know you peeped the pod, Gunn.
He watches. He watches.
It would be great. It'd be great, and it would just go ahead and further push the whole idea that all the movies are a part of this one TV show, one big DC multiverse. Like
Exactly. All right, everybody, we are out. Thank you very much, and we are out. Peace.
I do not enjoy landscapes devoid of dead Nazis, Miss Nina.